Six Nations 2023, folks, is just around the corner. The squads of all 6 countries are out. How many foreign-born or foreign-trained players are in each of these squads? That's what we're going to go have a look through today. And you guys can let us know your thoughts. If you think it, just hurry up and tell me the numbers. Please feel free to check out the link down in the description to the source article, which comes from the America's Rugby News. A pretty useful rugby news website. They've got all the details about all the players, the names, and where they were born, and who they represented, like at under 20s level, and all kinds of other juicy bits of detail if you want to check it out in its entirety. As I said, link down in the description. But it's always a bit of a touchy one in rugby. Everyone seems to have a different take on what kind of counts as being genuinely part of the team. Like, do you need to have the blood connection via a parent? Is a grandparent too tenuous a connection? If you spent enough years of your life there, does that make you kind of one of us? Everyone's got a different take. But yeah, as I said, you guys can kind of let us know your thoughts on how you reckon the squads are looking. We will start with England, actually. England's 36-man squad is out. And yeah, for the most part, it's a locally born and a locally raised side. So of the 36 players, 32 of them are locally born and raised. So born in England, learned their trade in England, which leaves us with 4 players who were born overseas. Now, interestingly, of those 4 players who were born overseas, they all made their way to England early enough to learn their rugby in England. So essentially you could argue this is pretty much a 100% homegrown squad, depending on how you want to look at it. If you're looking for the eligibility, how did these guys qualify for England who weren't born in England? Well, 2 of them are through parents, and 2 of them are through residency. So you've got the likes of Bevan Rodd, who was born in Scotland, Marcus Smith, who was born in the Philippines. Both these guys have got English parents. And then you've got Mako Vunipola, who despite a bit of time in Wales in his early childhood, I think played at least from secondary school onwards in England. So essentially it kind of captures him as a raised in England player. And then you've also got Manu Tuilangi, born in Samoa, but again kind of raised in England. So that's your 4 guys. You've got a couple of exceptions, Dan Kelly and George McGuigan, who played Irish under 20s, but still kind of plied their trade in England throughout their childhood. So essentially with 4, England is kind of your lowest one in terms of imported players, because none of their players were kind of foreign born and raised, if that makes any sense. For France, they named a 42-man squad, and of that 42, 38 of them are locally born players. So similar to England, that leaves us with 4 players who were not born and raised in France, but it's a little bit different from England in that of those 4, 2 of them are genuinely like imported kind of as adult players. 2 of them, sure enough, born overseas. That's Emilien Gaiton and Danny Priso, born in England and Cameroon, but both learned their trade in France. And then you've got Paul Willemse and you've got Uni Antonio, who born in South Africa, born in New Zealand respectively, and then learned their rugby in, I think, Namibia. Partly, Willemse, and then South Africa, and then Antonio was obviously in New Zealand. So a couple of those guys with maybe less of a connection to France throughout their childhoods than maybe some of the English guys did, you know, just moving to England at a younger age. So where were these guys born? New Zealand, England, Cameroon, and South Africa, like I said, and then a couple of them plying their trade. There's one exception in that Flamand, I think, also spent part of his childhood in Belgium, but still born in France. So I think he played around the traps a wee bit before finally, I guess, kind of coming home. So that leaves France also with 4, just if you're looking at it as a kind of a black and white number. Now, interestingly, Italy is our next one to look at. Now, Italy, I remember whenever I would watch Italy, there would always be some Kiwi in that squad who I'll be like, oh man, that guy used to play for like Bay of Plenty, and I haven't seen him play in New Zealand for like 4 years, and then he would pop up in the Italian squad. But not anymore. Italy's pretty low on their foreign-born players. So of their squad, they've got 20, I think it's 27 locally produced, locally born and raised players, which leaves us with 6 guys who somehow had to make their way to Italy a bit later in life. One of them is foreign born but locally raised, and then 5 of them are genuinely foreign born and raised, but maybe qualify for Italy in a way which you might not expect. Because when you look at how these guys are eligible for Italy, there's none who are qualifying through residency. There are no Kiwis with no connection to Italy who've just played Italian rugby for a few years and have now been called up. All these guys are either a parent, 4 of them, or a grandparent, 2 of them, to give them qualification for Italy, which, I don't know, just seems a bit nicer, doesn't it? That there's that family connection. And then where are these guys based from? Well, I mean, the guys in question, you've got Polledri, who was born and raised in England, but has got a Italian parent. You've got Capuozzo, born and raised in France. Vani, born and raised in Wales. Brix, born and raised in Argentina. Negri, I think, born in Zimbabwe, raised in South Africa. And then Manfredi, born in Germany and raised in Italy. So he is kind of a homegrown one, despite the fact that he was born overseas. But interestingly, some of these guys who were born and raised, trained overseas, Polledri, Capuozzo, Vani, and I think even Negri played Italian under-20s. So despite the fact they're not local products in terms of the system, they still, I guess, knew at a pretty young age that the Italian national side was the one they wanted to go for. So I guess that's kind of pleasing, man. That's encouraging in terms of like all the investment that Italy's put into their youth squads in recent years to bring talent through. There is one exception with Italy, and that is Tommaso Allen, who, despite being born in Italy, so he's not on that list in terms of foreign-born players, he still went, like, I think he went through the Wasps Academy and played Scottish under-20s before ending up in the Italian national team. So he's kind of had a bit of a journeyman's role, but doesn't appear on the initial list because he is locally born, even if it took him a wee while to find his way back. So the Italians' grand total comes to 6 if you're just looking at it in kind of black and white numbers. After Italy, we head over to Wales with Gatland's 37-man squad. Now, 30 of these guys are locally born. And as we head into the UK for Wales and also for Scotland, I guess we have to remember that there's also the factors of shared healthcare systems and whatnot between Scotland, I guess Northern Ireland as well, Wales and England, right? There's, you know, shared work opportunities. People travel around for work and whatnot. So I guess it's to be expected that we see a few more English names or English-born guys popping up in other squads just because of the nature of the economy of these countries. But looking at Wales, like I said, 30 of these guys are locally born and trained players. 3 of them were born outside of Wales but learned their rugby in Wales, and then 4 of them are overseas or at least not in Wales, born and raised players. So it's a little bit of a split. How are these guys eligible for Wales? 2 through parents, 3 through grandparents, and then just the 2 who are through residency. And as I mentioned, it's kind of not surprising to see the English connection with this Welsh squad. So 4 of the Welsh guys were born in England. 3 of them went through the English system. So George North's on that list, but he's on the Welsh list in terms of that's where he played his rugby throughout his youth. So he might not have been born in Wales, but I think the dude speaks Welsh, so he's pretty much as Welsh as it gets. Tom Francis, Cuthbert, and Tompkins, though, all raised and trained, learned their rugby in England. For South Africa, it's Bradley Roberts, and then you've also got Faletau and Chiunza, who were born in Tonga and the Democratic Republic of Congo, respectively, but also are kind of homegrown in terms of being trained in Wales. So yeah, it's a little bit of a mixture for Wales. So, you know, you've got 4 who learned their rugby outside Wales, but the total list, if you're looking at it kind of black and white, becomes 7. The last 2, Ireland and Scotland. So Ireland, 37-man squad. The same with Wales. It is a 30 local player bunch. So that's pretty much, I mean, Wales was also 37-man squad, also 30 local players. The difference being with Ireland is that one of those guys, instead of 3 for Wales, is foreign-born but locally trained, and that's Joe McCarthy, who was born in the States. and then 6 of the guys are foreign born and raised guys. So when you're looking at how these guys qualify, you've got 2 eligible through parents, 2 eligible through grandparents, and then 3 through residency. The 3 through residency, that's your 3 Kiwis: Jameson, Gibson Park, James Lowe, and Bundy Aki. Whereas the guys with the more family connection, you've got a couple of the Aussies in Beelum and Hansen, and then you've got Rob Herringer, I think was one of the grandparent connection ones too. They kind of identified early, and as I mentioned, McCarthy, despite being born in the States, made his way to Ireland early enough to be kind of homegrown in that regard. I think Tom O'Toole is also one of the exceptions, like Tommaso Allenfedley, in that he was born in Ireland but moved to Australia as a pretty young man, and kind of was brought back to Ireland after doing like youth rugby in Australia. So yeah, so ultimately Ireland's number, like Wales, comes to 7. They're just a little lighter on locally trained players than what the Welsh squad is. Now, Scotland. Scotland, you've got a lot more names on your list. I understand the playing pool is a fair bit smaller in Scotland, but I'd be interested to know what the kind of like participation numbers are like in Scotland compared to Italy. I genuinely have no idea. I could probably go look it up if you want to look up World Rugby's numbers. But Scotland, 40-man squad. 19 of these guys are locally born and raised, which is under 50%. And then you got 1 guy who's foreign born but still came through the Scottish system. And then 20 players, so half the squad somehow played their rugby and was not born in Scotland. So it's a big shift from all of the other squads. I mean, the other squads are all very much in the minority, but the Scottish squad is genuinely like half. So how are these guys eligible though? Most of them have some kind of family connection. I guess this links to a bit of a Scottish diaspora. 10 through parents, 8 through grandparents, and then we've got 3 through residency. 3 through residency is part of your South African connection. It's your Duan Bandamova, it's your Via Pionel, it's your Pia Skuma. So the South African connection is real with those guys, but it's England when you're looking at where the biggest connection is. And like I mentioned with the UK, it's hardly surprising to see England have such a big connection with Scotland. So 8 of the guys were born in England, and 12 of these guys were trained in England. Though you're looking at like a Redpath who was born in France, trained in England. Ashman, I think, born in Canada, trained in England. Yeah, there's more of them, but I mean, Bayliss, Skinner, McConaughey. McConaughey's one of the ones who's genuinely represented England and switches allegiances, so he's the first in that regard that we'll see, but not the last. Hamish Watson, Chris Harris, Ali Price, Andy Christie. So yeah, there's a few of them who've got an English connection, absolutely. 4 South Africans, the 3 I mentioned, plus Kyle Steyn, and then a couple of Aussies in Dempsey and Tupulotu. Dempsey, again, literally represented Australia, so he's one of the ones to take advantage of that eligibility law change. And then a couple of Kiwis in Bergen and Maitland. Ben Healy's got the Irish connection, Jarvin Sebastian, and then Henderson is the one who was born in Hong Kong but came through the Scottish system, so still kind of counts as a locally produced product. Hugh Jones is another one of our exceptions who was, I think, born in Scotland but pretty much plied his trade in England and then South Africa as he was kind of learning his rugby. So yeah, folks, there you go. What do you reckon about the squads? Do you think it's kind of pleasing? Overall, I should say, as I write down the Scots who are at 21, the numbers are actually down from last year if you're looking at the number of foreign-born players. Like Scotland's actually down from 27 the year before to 21. Wales is down from 13 to 7. Ireland is down from 9 to 7. Italy's down from 14 to 6. That's a massive drop. England's down from 6 to 4. And France is steady with 4. So the overall number of foreign-born players is down from 73 to 49. So it's a less substantial chunk of the playing pool this year in terms of having some kind of foreign connection. But you guys let us know your thoughts. What do you reckon? Do you care where these guys were born and raised? What is your kind of, what's your feeling in terms of what makes it kind of right? What feels right? Did some players feel more English or Italian or more Irish or more Scottish than others? Is it the accent? Is it their ability with the language in terms of some of the French players? I think the French guys have got a pretty good mastery of French in terms of Willems and Antonio, don't they? But yeah, you guys let us know your thoughts. It's always an interesting one to follow. As I said, check out the source article, the America's Rugby News, down below. And yeah, I'll talk to you guys again soon.